Hola, welcome to the show. This is Mongo Slade, about 5 minutes late, but we're going to talk about superstar Billy Graham, at least for the first couple of minutes of this show. If you're one of the lucky few who actually got to that CM Punk video and wonder, um, and for those of you, good for you, because I didn't mean for it to go live immediately, but whatever. I I simply scooped it and threw it to tomorrow. It's gonna be tomorrow's video, if we're being honest. So today, for the first few minutes, we will be remembering superstar Billy Graham. Now, normally, people would do these ridiculously insincere obituaries. We don't do that here, at least not anymore. I did one on Mr. Wrestling too, and thought it was pretty fun. You know, um, and to me, that was a good usage of my time. But today, I decided to do a little bit different when it comes to superstar Billy Graham because he was such a blueprint for the WWF at the WWF. He made such an impression on Vince when Vince was just an announcer that he ended up, of course, creating a new superstar Billy Graham and Hulk Hogan and carrying the WWF to the highest heights that it could have ever achieved in 1983, 1984. But it was all because his dad fumbled the bag on superstar Billy Graham. Billy Graham, for those of you who, I mean, I know a lot of you are younger and you're not really big students of history. I know a lot of you aren't. I know some people are not. This is one of those things that historically, this man has significant amounts of value historically. Okay. Um, we, I'm pretty sure over the last couple of hours, you've seen countless people say, "Hey, this guy was the took from superstar Billy Graham. This guy took from him." I mean, the names are endless. Jesse the Body Ventura, Hulk Hogan, Scott Steiner. It's just so many guys. We sitting here all day trying to come up with various guys. Superstar Billy Graham, however, was he put himself sort of in the dustbin of history with his behavior in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. He was not necessarily the most scrupulous man. He was known for jumping on pretty much anything to get attention. So this video is going to be about a little bit about his life and his career. Not a lot, but we're also going to talk about the scandals. So the scandals are going to be fun because superstar Billy Graham put himself in a lot of situations that he probably didn't need to, uh, because he's all about getting attention on himself, and it's absolutely hilarious. To give you just a general idea of some of the stuff superstar Billy Graham has done that you probably don't remember or probably never knew, is that he actually lobbied for Dusty Rhodes' job after Dusty Rhodes died, and then tried to say, "Well, I'm going to be dead soon, so you should probably give me the job." He told Adam Cole to do steroids. It's just so many ridiculous stories about superstar Billy Graham. Truly, Hulk Hogan stole everything from superstar Billy Graham, which includes the pathological lying. That's the one thing that is the absolute truth, is that superstar Billy Graham was an absolute pathological liar. It's just um it's it's pretty funny. You know what I'm saying? Um Hello, for starters, everybody. Prince Ali has a question. He says Billy Graham influenced Hulk Hogan. An infamous serial killer influenced Stone Cold Steve Austin. What influenced Rocky? Are you talking about The Rock? Well, it's clearly Muhammad Ali. Um, that should have been easy to jump out at you. If you ever listen to Muhammad Ali talking and ever listen to The Rock, you know, you would get it. The only difference is The Rock referring to himself in third person, which is not something that Muhammad Ali always did. but you could pretty much look at his mannerisms, and you could tell that Muhammad Ali was one of the major influences for The Rock, which goes to show why archetypically when The Rock joined the quote Nation of Islam, I'm sorry, the Nation of Domination, that was similar to when Muhammad Ali joined the Nation of Islam. Even though Muhammad Ali joined the Nation of Islam, he became bitter, and eventually all that kind of stuff started to wear off, and his charm took over, and people just kind of forgot and didn't care anymore that he was a Muslim. The Rock utilized his switch to the Nation of Domination to become, something else, to become a heel, but also to try to find his groove and find his voice as a character. It's a completely different situation, of course, because Muhammad Ali was already the world champion when he decided he was going to become Muhammad Ali. The Rock hadn't really found his footing yet. He was still Rocky Maivia even for a couple of months while he was in the Nation of Domination. But that was clearly the influence, and you can pretty much tell that pretty instantly. I even knew that as a kid. But we're going to talk a little bit about Superstar Billy Graham. We're not going to like read his book or anything, but Slam Wrestling did a article on him 23 years ago. So this was pretty good at the time. Also, we're going to read a couple of passages from Capital Revolution on Superstar Billy Graham. And then we're going to get into some of his scandalous behaviors. And it ought to be fun. And of course, we'll come up with things later on. If you ask certain people, they'll think that just because Shane Douglas and Triple H wore the same hat, that's where Triple H got his character from. I wish people would think about things a lot deeper than they wore the same hat. There were only two guys in the business that wore the same hat. I'm like, oh God, ugh. Please. Like, what was the similarities? Anyway, Superstar Billy Graham, of course, passed away. He's been talking about dying for over 10 years. He believed he was going to die 10 years ago. Well, 13 years ago. There's articles where he's talking about the kidney that he got, that it gave him an extra 8 years, but he wasn't going to last much longer. He ended up lasting 13 more years. So, but he was sick quite often in his last couple of days. But let's get into this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's entirely too long, but it's basically a story of Superstar Billy Graham. So this is going to be kind of a history lesson for some of the younger wrestling fans. And then we're going to get into some of the fun stuff. Okay. So it says, this is from Chris Scram, Slam Wrestling, July 4th, 2000. He won the title and he lost the title in the same manner, with his leg on the ropes. Billy Graham's WWF World Title reign may have started and ended in controversial manner, but his reign and effect in wrestling still is relevant today. Scott Steiner, Hulk Hogan, and Minnesota Governor Jesse the Body Ventura have mentioned Billy Graham, nicknamed Superstar, as a major influence in their wrestling persona. He is not an evangelist, but he chose his name based on the famous religious television evangelist Billy Graham. This is not entirely true. Let's go to Capital Revolution. This book is by Tim Hornbaker. It's called The Rise of the McMahon Wrestling Empire. This tells a deeper story about Superstar Billy Graham getting his name. It says, quotes on page 237. Eldridge Wayne Coleman, he was a former bodybuilder and boxer from Arizona who had trained under Stu Hart in Calgary. Early in his career, he became a Graham brother and was purported to be related to Dr. Jerry and Eddie Graham, even though he wasn't. Nevertheless, it was a great story to tell and to sell to the public. And the Superstar's incredible strength made him a noteworthy heel on the circuit. So, I can't believe I got like about a paragraph in before I decided to correct the writer from something 23 years ago. Let's go back. He recently spoke out against steroid use in sports based on his own experiences. Numerous surgeries, 2 artificial hips, a fused ankle, and living his life in constant pain has brought him into a new knowledge of the drug he used to get ahead, to a drug that ultimately led him to money, fame, and the world title. Um, I believe it was his in his WWE biography that it should be on the network. 20 years too soon, I think it was called. It was one of my favorite documentaries when I first saw it, where he talked about if he could do it all over again, he would. So I don't think he felt too bad about the steroids and everything, but I'm pretty sure his body didn't like it very much. All right. You're going to get into some history. It says Billy Graham, who grew up Wayne Coleman in Arizona, was not an amateur wrestler. He was a track and field star in high school, and he was training for the 1968 Mexico City Olympic Games. He threw shot put, discus, and developed his awesome physique early in his life. He had no real goals out of high school. He moved to Los Angeles, and he could never find a steady job. He worked as a bouncer during this time. He says, I was never really a fan of wrestling. He watched it back in the 50s, but he never thought of getting into the sport. He remembers Sky High Lee when he was growing up. Lee used to take darts to his back on television, long before Mick Foley, Billy Graham said. He found out after he met his first wife, Valerie, well, his wife, Valerie, in 1976 that Lee was Valerie's second cousin. His first connection to wrestling came, though, while he was working in California during late 1969. Bob Lewick, who played for the Calgary Stampeders, asked Graham to come with him back to Calgary and give wrestling a try. Graham had no idea he was getting involved with Stu Hart, inviting him to train in the infamous dungeon. Stu Hart recalled that Billy Graham had no fat, looks like he was holding regulation footballs in his arms. He was the most impressive specimen I've ever seen in my life. Graham said that was it for me, recalling his first days there. They said his first gimmick was more of a tough man. Coming from a weightlifting background, Graham was thrown into challenge fans at arm wrestling matches. Anyone who could beat the superstar would win $1,000. Graham was honored to have started with Stu Hart, whom Graham still stays in contact with. So, this is old because Stu Hart is alive at this point. Graham talked about the dungeon. Now, we've talked about the dungeon on this channel, but here's what Graham said. I saw the blood stains on the walls and the mats when I walked in. Ugh. Blood stains on the wall and in the mats. That's crazy. Oh, God. Let's go through it a little bit. When it was time for Graham to head to the ring for action, he started under his real name, Wayne Coleman. It was that summer of 1970 that he met a wrestler named Dr. Jerry Graham. Graham, who was an established wrestler across the world, asked Coleman to become a brother. Wayne Coleman then took the name Billy Graham, based off Jerry Graham's last name and the famous evangelist Billy Graham. There we go. So he actually did come around to it. The nickname Superstar came in 1972, based from the rock opera that was really huge at the time, Jesus Christ Superstar. I do believe I saw Jesus Christ Superstar. I think I saw it maybe on some kind of public access television show. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember hearing a lot about it when I was a kid. I'm not sure if it's how blasphemous it is, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty damn blasphemous. We're going to skip forward a little bit. Vern Gagne saw the power and ability of Graham and decided to get Graham to work in the AWA out of Minneapolis. Billy Graham says, I hated working against Vern Gagne because of his old school style of wrestling. And I was not a wrestler. I was more methodical. I was more methodical. It was physically difficult. Graham did not complain about the crowds and money that came with his stay, but the coldness of the North really got to the Arizona native. He left the AWA for one reason, the cold. Then, in 1975, he gets called to the WWF, where he wrestles for Vince McMahon Sr. He says, Bruno Sammartino had ruled the WWF for 15 years, and Vince Sr. was looking for a man to give him a run for his money. Graham was his choice. Graham said, quote, it was the easiest match I could have. Saying Sammartino's style was similar to his, and their matches went pretty smoothly. March 30th, 1977, McMahon Sr. has made the decision to give Graham the world title from Sammartino. The Baltimore crowd was split on who their favorite was, and a lot of the confusion came when Graham used the ropes to pin Sammartino. Graham had become the world champion, but it was the interesting way in which the crowd reacted that made Graham an innovator. Graham became the first tweener for the WWF, and his model was the same way in which stars like Steve Austin and D-Generation X were split. No matter how evil, how much of a rule breaker he was, the crowds were booing and cheering at the same time. I don't know if Billy Graham was a tweener. I'm not so sure. I think that he was just a popular heel. I loathe the term tweener because the people he wrestled against were pure baby faces like Dusty Rhodes and Bruno and others. I think to say that he was a tweener would be to denigrate those guys. I explained that the video went live too soon, and so I kicked it to tomorrow. But if you got to see it, then you got lucky because it was supposed to be for tomorrow. But because I couldn't possibly have two videos going at the same time. I mean, that just wasn't going to happen. That's why it went up early. Because I was downloading it and then I went and did something else. So the video ended up getting downloaded early, and some people had already got to see it before I decided to pull it down and post it tomorrow. But some of you have already seen it. I'm not changing anything in it. It's just I didn't want this video and that video live at the same time because that video went up at like 7:15 or something like that. And I didn't notice it. I just didn't want it to go up at the same time. Also, calling Steve Austin a tweener, it makes no sense. And I mean, are you saying that Vince McMahon wasn't a heel? He wasn't really even a tweener when he was feuding with Bret Hart. Bret Hart was a heel. I mean, it was that early in the feud, Bret was a babyface, and then that changed. There was a transitional period where that changed. There are no tweeners, man. It just doesn't happen. Going back to the article, it says Graham remembered getting motivation to carry his split fan base to a new gimmick. Wanted to have a feud with Ivan Koloff, the WWF's biggest heel wrestler, and Graham believed that would get him over greatly with the fans. He was hoping to have a long run with the championship. McMahon Sr. had a different idea. At the same time, a young amateur wrestler was being pushed by the name of Bob Backlund. McMahon Sr. planned 2 years ahead to eventually give the title to Backlund. Graham knew the day would come 10 months later to lose the title, but Graham had a very successful run. He sold out 19 of 20 New York City Madison Square Garden main events he headlined, a percentage not met by any wrestler in WWF or WWF history. I'm not sure if this is still true, but it feels like it was true. In the book, Capital Revolution, it tells a little bit more into the story because Bruno is a bigger piece of this book for obvious reasons. But you learn that Bruno Sammartino had a neck injury that he suffered in a match with, I believe it was Stan Hansen. Stan Hansen broke Bruno's neck. It was by accident, of course. But ultimately, Bruno needed a break. And so the decision was to give the title to somebody temporarily as a way of them being sort of a transitional champion. And that somebody ends up being Superstar Billy Graham. So it says people across the WWF territory were bewildered and upset. The epic Sammartino reign had concluded in a disappointing fashion, and in his place was a crooked and cocky eccentric, but a man who seemed to have pro wrestling in the palm of his hand. Unfortunately, longtime enthusiasts in the Northeast were already depressed because of a tragic loss away from the scripted grappling scene. The WWF's original top star, Antonino Rocca, or in other words, Argentina Rocca, had passed away around this time. So we start going through this where they're not talking about that much about Billy Graham's success. And you will learn that Billy Graham comes across almost like an Ultimate Warrior-like figure, where his run was really short, but really impactful. And then you get to this point. It says, as WWF heavyweight champ, Superstar Billy Graham was gold. Exuding personality, he was the guy crowds loved to loathe. Reminiscent of Buddy Rogers, and his reign of 9 months and 21 days was the longest for a heel title holder in the organization's history. Graham sold out the Garden nearly every time he appeared in the top spot, and the demand for him was extended across the NWA. McMahon complied with outside requests, sending him often to Florida, as well as stops in Los Angeles, St. Louis, and Atlanta. Backlund, throughout this period, developed as a performer and gained esteem in Northeastern rings. He worked his way up the card and ushered into a February 20th, 1978 match against Graham at the Garden. Then he defeated the WWF King and won the belt. That was not a good idea. That was not a good idea. They put the belt on Bob Backlund. It was not a good idea. Oh, that was not a good idea. That sucked. As an idea, that one sucks. How do you go from superstar Billy Graham to goddamn Bob Backlund? I don't know. I don't know why you would do that. I guess there was a reason for it. The legitimacy, I would imagine, is you want to make everyone come across as being pretty legitimate. You want people to look like you have those actual wrestlers. But you see that Vince Sr. and Vince Jr. have very different belief systems. So as the story goes, I'm not going to read any more articles until we start talking about his scandals. But as the story goes, Superstar Billy Graham was depressed after they took the title from him because he had did everything that he could possibly do and still lost the title. And he was pretty upset about that. And he went into a depression which lasted for quite a while, it seems. Because, at the time, nobody knew what depression was or what was going on. And he pretty quickly fell out of the spotlight. There was really no good reason why Superstar Billy Graham shouldn't have been a top guy in the early 80s. Up there with Sergeant Slaughter and Jimmy Snuka. And he should have been there, but he disappeared, shaved his head, became a kung fu fighter or some nonsense. It got really weird there for a moment. Nobody wants to talk about that stuff because that stuff is embarrassing and is beneath Superstar Billy Graham. It really is. But for a shining moment from between 1977 and 1978, Superstar Billy Graham was probably one of the most popular wrestlers in the world. Superstar Billy Graham was the opponent that Dusty Rhodes wrestled his trilogy of matches in Madison Square Garden against, that in which Cody Rhodes is now trying to finish the story. It was Superstar Billy Graham that was the opposition for Dusty on those nights. Their Bull Rope match is actually very good. If you want to watch just one Superstar Billy Graham match, Superstar versus Dusty, Bull Rope match, very good. They had some other matches that were pretty good too, but that one was my favorite. WG Phil says Billy Graham was one of the first colorful, larger-than-life wrestlers outside of luchadors and Gorgeous George. To a degree, yes, but you're talking about Gorgeous George was in the 40s, and luchadors, of course, were doing their thing, but it was mostly in Mexico and in certain places in the South. But there were other guys who kind of ripped off Gorgeous George, like Buddy Rogers, yeah. But you can say that Superstar Billy Graham was essentially the Buddy Rogers of his time, or the Gorgeous George of his time. Not many was doing what Superstar Billy Graham was doing. His promo style was excellent. He used to spit these poems, and the poems were my favorite stuff. Was my favorite stuff about him, especially when you watch the documentary. It's called His Rap, and I'm trying to find it on YouTube. I should have just had it queued up already because I knew I was going to do it. I'm trying to find it. They played a little bit of it. Listen to a little bit of his promos. The promos, man, they can sell you quick. Him with young Vince.
Come on up, ladies and gentlemen. For another capacity crowd here in Madison Square Garden. There are those here who certainly are in your favor, those who are not, Mr. Graham. But nevertheless, there's pandemonium tonight. There's excitement. Look at the people's faces. Look at the people's expressions. Can you feel it? Look at you. You're excited because I am the champion, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. How can I retain this belt? Why am I still a champion after months and months and months? Because I'm in shape. I'm powerful. I'm strong. I wake up every morning, work out for 5 hours, run 19 miles a day, swim across the Atlantic Ocean. Unbelievable condition. I'm the man of the hour, the man of the power. Sweet to be sour, mystery excitement. Look at the pandemonium. Look at the thousands of people. Thousands of people. Will you defend your championship in other areas here in the United States? Anywhere in the world. Japan, Australia, United States, California, Mexico, I don't care, Central America, any state, any city, anywhere. That man is from Japan, all even independent in Japan. Anywhere you want. For your time, Superstar Billy Graham.
Listen to these people. He ain't doing nothing but talking. All he did was yell at the camera. The thing is, Superstar is huge, but if you see Vince in that goddamn padded suit that he's wearing, young Vince, you could tell young Vince made a very, very big impression on him. And he was really good at this whole thing, man. It's unreal. I'm trying to find the promo where he did the full rap. I'm trying to figure out which one it is. I don't want to run a longer one and then it's not it. This one's from 1975. That's probably not it. This might be it from June 77.
We'll try to get an interview with Graham, and here you hear the roar and the applause.
He's wearing a tie-dye shirt. I think this is the one. I think this is the one I'm looking for. Let me get to Top Dog's question in 1 minute. I want to make sure this is the promo.
Superstar Billy Graham, the controversial Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. And 27,000 people on the sidewalk that could not get in to see this match. Bruno Sammartino cannot get the belt back from Superstar Billy Graham. I am the champion. I am the greatest. I am the strongest. This is my belt. I got the proof, baby. I can burn the hour, the never the power. Too sweet to be sour. There are those fans in Los Angeles all over, waiting for your appearance.
He busts out and started flexing for no reason. No, that's not the one I was looking for. That one was pretty good, but that's not the one I was looking for. I was looking for the man, the one where he's talking about eating T-bone steaks, lifting barbell plates. That's the one I'm looking for. Because that one is the best one. When he is running off all these things that he do to prepare for his matches is absolutely tremendous. How was wrestling like during the Billy Graham days? It was a lot more sports based, which is why Bruno and Billy Graham got so much heat. And by heat, I don't mean that people booed. Well, Billy Graham got booed, but you could maybe one day I'll actually read some articles about people who hated Bruno because they didn't think he could wrestle. And I say that the WWF, they have such a history of that I think somebody said, I think that Dutch Mantel recently said that, Billy Graham was the first real sports entertainer. He wasn't a wrestler's wrestler. He didn't take a lot of bumps. He was a guy who, he got his heat by flexing and talking. That was it. And there was a lot of guys who didn't like that about superstar Billy Graham because he wasn't a traditional wrestler. And that traditional wrestler label is why we ended up with fucking Bob Backlund. And I didn't want that. I don't understand why they decided to go with Bob Backlund. Of all people, Bob Backlund. That's what I don't know. This it's pretty silly to me. Billy Graham was one of those guys who was very, very bitter and very angry because he had felt that, he had been screwed over by the wrestling business. He had participated in quite a few smears against Vince. It's actually in this article, the same one from Scram Slam Wrestling that I was reading, that he says, I became bitter and angry after the ankle surgery. I began to tell the world about the dangers of steroids, the pain, the suffering I was having because of the use, and talking about people who use it. It says, I was in such a state of rage. And then when he was talking about being on, I think it was Donahue, not Donahue. He went to talk about Vince McMahon and George Zahorian. And he says that he was in a state of rage, and he admitted that he was lying. Now he lied a lot. Superstar Billy Graham was a compulsive liar. He lied quite a bit. He lied about a lot of things too. But it's pro wrestling. You take what you can get sometimes. This is from what is this? What is this here? The Phoenix New Times. So this is his home magazine. It says Graham 67. He was 67 in 2011. So that means he'd be like 80 or something, 79 now. Graham 67 is big, bald, round in a way that resembles a balloon and lost half his air. Wow, why would you talk about this man like that? His physique impressed a newly immigrated Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 60s and wrestling promoter Vince McMahon Sr. in the 70s, before it collapsed on Graham in the 80s, leaving him physically and financially destitute. That's tough. Ooh, that's a tough one. Now, Graham is at this point, this is 2011, he's doing a meet and greet. And superstar Billy Graham says, quote, if you want my autograph and a chance to meet me, you will only get it in LA at the Wrestling Union event, unless you knock on my door in Phoenix. And then it says, quote, the draw for fans is that he will soon die from hepatitis, or so he says. In the same release hyping his appearance, Graham makes the dire announcement that he has bought a grave beside Eddie Guerrero's at Green Acres Memorial Garden Cemetery in Scottsdale and will not be attending the Legends of Wrestling. He bought he claimed to have bought he claimed that he bought a cemetery spot next to Eddie Guerrero. I wonder, that cannot be true. Oh, no. So, let's continue. He says, the article says, he says his liver doctor told him it would be too dangerous to fly and that he is afraid of bleeding to death at 35,000 feet. For the skeptical fan, he insists that the claim is, quote, not a work, please. I don't work the real possibility of death. Graham claims he caught hepatitis C in the 70s from rolling around in the ring in other wrestlers' blood. He downplays any possibility that he could have caught it from his steroid injections or from a promiscuous lifestyle. In 2002, he was on his deathbed awaiting a liver transplant when 26-year-old Katie Gilroy died in a car crash. Graham received her liver from the donation list. The donation allowed Graham a second chance at life after a decade of alienated everyone he had ever loved or worked for. And they talked about WWE a little bit. Then he says, quote, "This family, the McMahon family, are people with dignity, people with character, people with class. Some years ago, I wrote Vince a personal letter and apologized, asked for forgiveness for some things I had done. I was trying to clean up my life. You can't live in bitterness. You can't live in envy. You can't live in jealousy. The man who lives in bitterness might as well be dwelling in hell." Huh. I love the McMahons, he added. I love I love you guys. Yeah, right. He sold his Hall of Fame ring shortly after he got it and said he didn't care about it. Let's tell that story. He loves Vince so much he sold that fucking ring. He sold it almost immediately too. Pretty much immediately. Hall of Fame ring. Let's see. This is from 2009. So this was before he got that article was written. He says, quote, "One of the reasons I decided to actually sell the ring was when Vince McMahon made the statement that the Hall of Fame was really just in his head and a figment of his imagination. He said there would never really be a physical Hall of Fame to honor the wrestlers. On the other side of the coin, Shane McMahon has been saying for years that there will be a building to house these garments and things to honor the wrestlers. It was really the callous and coldness of Vince saying there will never be a real Hall of Fame that drained the emotion and the pride of having a Hall of Fame ring, which was a beautiful thing, especially when it was so cavalier. It was like the Hall of Fame, the rings, was simply a spur-of-the-moment thing to Vince and just a way to generate publicity. Yeah, with nothing about the money or anything like that, right? Oh, God. So let's continue. He says, while McMahon's comments, this is Slam Wrestling, while McMahon's comments clearly caused deep disappointment within the former champion, it says the straws that broke the camel's back were the non-renewal of Graham's employment contract with the WWE, for whom he served as an ambassador, and the fact that he was not invited to attend WrestleMania 25 in April in Houston. Even more insulting to him was the reason given for not flying him in for the show. Quote, this is from Billy Graham. He says, "I was certainly offended by being released from the company by letting my contract expire. Not to be too braggadocious, but I consider myself to be an icon because of my influence on guys like Hulk Hogan and Jesse Ventura. So just dropping me from the employment contract was really a slap in the face. As regards to WrestleMania, I wanted to participate in the art festival that they've had for the last couple of years where WWE employees put on their art on display. With me being a professional artist, I felt I should certainly be a part of that. But John Laurinaitis told me that they couldn't afford to fly me from Phoenix to Houston, which is about $225 round trip. That I found that very insulting. They said that they like to use some of my art there, but that the budget prevented them from flying me there. So rather than anger or frustration, there's a lot of disappointment in me towards Vince McMahon at the moment. It's not anger. I'm just saddened at the lack of respect for the contribution that I made to WWE, and in fact, inspiring Triple H to a great degree. Not to mention Hogan, Ventura, Austin Idol, and many others. I forgot Austin Idol, yes, because he didn't wrestle in WWE that much, if at all. But yeah, you can even look at Austin Idol today, and you can tell that he's mimicking superstar Billy Graham. The selling of the Hall of Fame ring is really more due to disappointments as opposed to a vengeful act of animosity, and to be discarded in such a blunt way with the excuse of budget cuts. That doesn't sit well with me. Later, he says this, "I have to say I have never ever been sentimental about professional wrestling or anything attached to it or associated with it. I've always enjoyed it as theater and a form of art, and almost like a Broadway play, since it always has predetermined winners and losers. We were actually acting. Even though it required a lot of stamina and physical effort, I never emotionally attached myself to the business of professional wrestling. I actually considered it to be a job. So therefore, there was no sentimental connection to the ring. Without question, the adulation and the emotion of having an event like against Bruno in Madison Square Garden, a feeling the emotion was quite exhilarating, and it did raise a level of adrenaline in me. The rush of having an emotional reaction of 20,000 people was quite thrilling and quite satisfying, without a doubt. The actual act of performing and receiving the accolades and the input of genuine emotion from the fans was quite an amazing accomplishment, but for me, there was nothing more to it than that. This is the same guy who, again, went into a depression because he got the title taken from him, and he felt like he should have continued being the world champion. There's a lot more to this piece, but him talk about how much he loves the McMahons. He has that love-hate relationship with the McMahons that's absolutely hilarious. Him saying, I love you guys, because he thought he was going to die or something like that is pretty hilarious. Oh, man, this is an 8-part story on Superstar Billy Graham. That's entirely too long, I can tell you that much. It talks about him meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bob Lewick, just a really, really, really long article on Superstar. This guy actually did his homework. My goodness, I'm just skimming through it, and it seems that he actually did some effort on this thing. I like this. I like this a lot. I like when people put real effort into their wrestling things. So this is what I was looking for. The promo. He says this from the article. Graham was a showman, turning his biceps to the camera and declaring himself the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the women's pet, the men's regret. What you see is what you get, and what you don't see is better yet. That's the one I was looking for. Because the way his inflection and everything made it really, really hot. It was dope. It was super dope. And I'm trying to figure out. Of course, they didn't put the date of the promo in here. For God's sake, that's the thing about territories. For fuck's sake, please specify things. When did things happen? All right. Pretty funny that he sold his Hall of Fame ring. Then he sold it. Well, he did need money. That's just a fact. He didn't have too many means of taking care of himself. What else could he do really outside of? But he couldn't even travel quite often because he had so many injuries and various issues and stuff like that. So it wasn't much he could actually do. But let's get to this one because I think this one is pretty funny. No, that's a better fact. Let's do Billy Graham, steroids, Vince McMahon. Because he apologized for this, but this was pretty funny. It's hilarious. I'm trying to find I want audio. That's what I want. I really want some audio of Superstar Billy Graham saying the stuff that he said about Vince McMahon. Because I've read quite a bit of it, but I want to hear it. I don't want to go through that whole segment on Donahue though, because that would be forever. D-Mac is correct. What would wrestling look like if it wasn't for Superstar Billy Graham? I mean, you can't really put a legitimate. You can't hold a scale to what the business would look like without him. It would be so hard to look at this business and see, how many guys who are jacked up and crazy. And
But we don't have any proof, and I don't think you're claiming to have seen the illegal act. Okay, I may not have seen this particular illegal act, but it has gone on for so many years. Just as the selling of drugs by Dr. George Zahorian has gone on for 15 years in the World Wrestling Federation. Witnessed and condoned by this McMahon, you see, and condoned by him sitting this close to Dr. Zahorian while he sold steroids, while he sold barbiturates down.
I'm telling you, Vince wanted to murder Billy Graham. Please find this clip, because the video says it all. The audio was pretty damn good, but the video is nuts because Vince is sitting right next to him, or at least he's in the same space. All right, and he looks at Billy Graham. He takes a big gulp, rolls his eyes, and he goes, mm-hmm. Vince wants to fight Billy Graham so bad over this.
Downers and uppers to every wrestler who have wanted them. I'm saying what I'm trying to say is the man could condone this, so he also condoned the homosexuality. He put up with the drug selling, and he put up with the homosexuality. Identify the cast of characters here. You mentioned Mal Phillips. He is another of the executives who has resigned. I don't believe he was an actual executive. He was a ring announcer. Was he not? Has he not resigned from the WWF? He has resigned from it fired. I don't know which. Is he not one of the people who has... He's one of those who has stepped down following the publicity about this. Nobody's been proven guilty. We should get that point. You're denying you recall anything like this, looking the other way. Not only that, the thing of it is, why not speak up? If I saw something like that, I'd call the authorities.
I call the authorities. I call the authorities. Probably not. Probably not, Vince. I'm pretty sure you saw your fair share of illegal activities, and you didn't say anything. But he's trying to save his life here. He getting spit roasted on TV. What is poor Vince.
You call the authorities. Come on. You're not going to let somebody like that get away with that. Please, you know what? You know why? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you speak up when you allowed Dr. George Zahorian to sell barbiturates that almost killed Rick McGraw? They were in his bloodstream when he died, along with all the. We're all smarter now about steroids. But wait a minute. Barbiturates, steroids, plus hardcore drugs that I had 3 overdoses with myself from Dr. Zahorian's drugs. And I tell you one thing: if my wife would have had a gun, she flushed half the drugs down the.
What on earth? Oh my goodness. Oh my word. So many people saw that, and not many people knew that that superstar Billy Graham actually ended up apologizing for Vince for all of this. But also, Bruno Sammartino was on that stage too. Bruno was also pretty on the outs with the WWF. It was just a bad time, you know. Bruno, who was the big guy in the 60s and the 70s, was there, and even parts of the 80s was there. Another big guy from Billy Graham was there. Hogan was trying to make some money, wasn't really quite working out in the early 90s. Savage was doing his best, but you know, he's crazy all the time. Warrior, I mean, my goodness, you had to fire that fool. This thing was insane. The two arguing on stage was hilarious. Like, this was legit. This was good. That was good stuff. Again, we should note that he apologized to Vince over this. Now, maybe he only apologized because, you know, he needed Vince, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he apologized. Is because at this point, once Vince beat the case, he needs him. You know, Um, it's it's sad, but you do need this guy because how else do you make money? So I guess if you figure if you couldn't take him down, your best bet is to just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I said all that horrible stuff about you on TV. I'm going to make all these accusations in private, but then I'm going to apologize. I'm going to make all these accusations in public. I mean, I'm going to apologize in private. This is a mess. That whole thing was an absolute disaster. It was funny though. My goodness, it was funny. And that was only 1 minute of a 40-minute episode. That thing is cringe to sit through though. Like all of those Vince McMahon arguing with various people, them shits they're funny at first. They're funny in small doses. And then they get like hardcore cringe not too long afterwards. So here's another one, another superstar Billy Graham story. This one is actually pretty bad. If I say so myself. So, let me look at the date. It's from July the 15th, 2015. No, I'm sorry, July the 1st, 2015. Now, the significance of this story is Dusty Rhodes has passed away on June 11th, 2015. Dusty Rhodes, of course, is the architect behind NXT. Literally less than a month later, superstar Billy Graham tries to get Dusty Rhodes a job. He goes on Facebook and he says, "Hello, wrestling fans. This is superstar Billy Graham. With all the rumors going around about my interest or lack of concerning a position for me with NXT that my dear friend Dusty Rhodes had, I thought that was necessary to give you a direct statement from me to set the record straight. First off, I have been planning on moving back to Florida for some time now. My wife of 35 years, Valerie, is from Tampa and all of her family lives there. Blah, 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 blah. This Tuesday morning, June 30th, I sent an email directly to Vince informing him that if the position that Dusty once had has not yet been filled, that I am very interested in taking it since I am moving back to live in Florida. I have not heard back from Vince or any of his staff, as he is a very busy man. I am sure at some point I will get an answer from Vince concerning this question. I'm pretty sure he's not going to respond to you. I'm pretty sure here it is. Was this 8 years later? You probably still haven't heard from that man. He says, about my qualifications for this position. It should be obvious that I am qualified for the NXT position of coaching the younger talent about how to do promos and communicate with the worldwide WWE TV wrestling audience. Also, I am not so stupid that I would try to teach them how to be charismatic to the level of Dusty Rhodes or myself. One is born with that level of charisma, but a young wrestler can be taught to be more confident in their delivery and bring out their full potential in this area. I actually like that philosophy. That's a very solid philosophy. You can't teach charisma. Either you have it or you don't. But you can teach kids how to be confident. I like that, actually. That makes sense. In regards to my health, as almost everyone knows, I had a successful liver transplant. My liver, according to a recent test, is doing extremely good. I feel very robust, alert, and healthy, as the doctors at the world-famous Mayo Clinic Hospital here in Phoenix have told me. I train at a 24-hour fitness gym 4 days a week. As soon as I hear from Mr. Vince McMahon regarding the NXT position one way or another, I will post that information on Facebook. Thank you for your time, and everyone have a nice day. Superstar Billy Graham. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This man is something else, dog. He was a real fucking gem. What a gem, this Billy. Okay. How would NXT look under superstar Billy Graham? Well, here's the thing. They tried a lot of different things with Billy Graham. When his career was over, they tried making him a commentator. So if you watch like some old wrestling from the late 80s, early 90s, after he tried to make his failed comeback, he tried to make a comeback and it was pretty bad. All right. That's when he was out in the desert with the giant spider and everything. It was dumb. This was after he went through depression and went to WCW and embarrassed himself. I don't know what it is about the WCW humiliation ceremony that these guys leave, like Iron Sheik, Superstar Billy Graham. There's so many of them that just went to WCW and was a shell of themselves. But it was his opportunity to sort of reevaluate what he wanted to do. And he got to shed that stupid karate gimmick. He started doing something else. But by this point in time, he couldn't really do it anymore, in terms of he still had the vocal skills, but he just wasn't there. All right. He didn't have it. And his matches still weren't good. Like he was never a great wrestler, but he was always believable. But then when he got into an advanced age, he wasn't even believable anymore. So at that point, things became a little bit more difficult. They tried to make him a commentator. I'm trying to remember what happened and why he failed as a commentator, but it didn't work out. Let me look that up while I'm talking. Billy Graham, commentator. Oh shit! I gotta remember to put Superstar Billy Graham because they keep giving me the other Billy Graham. We're not talking about that guy right now. Okay, it says he was on Color at SummerSlam '88. Maybe somebody in this Reddit section knows why he got removed. I don't know what. Nope. I can't. I don't remember why they removed him. But here's another Superstar Billy Graham promo about people impersonating. This one he went to WCW. Technically, it was Mid Atlantic, but this was before it was WCW.
Welcome to today's show.
No commercials. Get no free play here. I'm telling you guys need to look into wrestling before you was born. This stuff is before I was born.
With us right now, here he is, the living legend, the colorful one, Superstar Billy Graham. That's it, my man. Now, Superstar Billy Graham, let me lay some heavy rap on you right now, little man. Superstar Billy Graham, the most famous wrestler in all the world, the most colorful wrestler in all the world, the most exciting wrestler in all the world, the only man with a 24-inch python, the human python of Superstar Billy Graham. Now, people have been going around the world trying to imitate me, trying to duplicate me, trying to impersonate Superstar Billy Graham, the living legend. Now, it can't be done. You see, I'm not Coca-Cola. The people want the real thing. They're not going to settle for an imitation. They got to have the real Superstar Billy Graham in their homes, in the living rooms, in the bedrooms. Wait a minute, in the dens. All these people out here, they want Superstar Billy Graham, and they got Superstar Billy Graham. The real thing is here at last. Now there's the people. There was a man here with karate pants on, trying to impersonate Superstar Billy Graham. He was so far to shave his head like Superstar, but you could not impersonate the living legend Superstar Billy Graham. You could not make believe and make it happen. Superstar Billy Graham, the arm wrestling champion of the world, take on all contenders, take on all pretenders. Nobody on the face of the earth can bend the arm of Superstar Billy Graham. I went to the Belgian Congo to find myself a 900-pound gorilla.
Oh.
When I found that gorilla, I got up in his face and looked at his pig eyes. He breathed that smelly breath on me. And I said, you remind me of somebody. You kind of look like Abdullah the Butcher. I said, gorilla, I'm going to break your arm. And sure enough, I grabbed that 900-pound gorilla's arm and broke his arm. And he said, Superstar, you bad to the bone, brother.
Wait a minute. He would never get away with that promo today. I'm going to get to what Darren Miles said, but you can never cut that promo today. Why? He just called a black man a gorilla. He said a 900-pound gorilla reminds him of Abdullah the Butcher. There's no way you can get away with that today. People would be like, what? You call him a gorilla? Come on. Everybody knew what he was saying. Stop it. He just wasn't physically in shape. He wasn't in shape anymore. He was still jacked and everything, but he couldn't really wrestle anymore. I mean, the only reason he was even in the early days of WCW, the very early days of WCW, is because in the WWF, his thing had gotten pretty old, and physically he couldn't go anymore. He really couldn't even take bumps. He could barely move. You can go and watch some of that stuff. He wasn't very good. If you watched him in 1977 and then watched him in what was that? Was it 85? I think it just wasn't. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was an ill-fated run to WCW, but it was the only other place you could go to make money. And by WCW, I just mean the general Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett Promotions area. Like, not necessarily WCW, because it didn't exist yet. But there was that other territory that was existing at the time. That's what I mean by WCW. So let's talk about some of his more some more hilarity from Superstar Billy Graham. This is where he said about CM Punk, which I thought was pretty funny. He said this on Facebook. Now, I could get into the history of blacks being compared to gorillas. It's something that really old anthropologists, what they used to do was they used to go to Africa and find that and say that Negroid skulls look like gorilla skulls and that kind of stuff, and have pictures of Africans, especially like the poorer Africans and stuff like that, and like the jungle regions and stuff, and how they look more like apes, and that became sort of a stereotype. So whenever somebody starts to compare blacks to like monkeys or gorillas, people get really offended by it. This is from like the 1700s to 1800s, but it was one of those things that comparing people to animals is what they did literally all the time. There's a lot of Africans who do look like gorillas though, and there's some Europeans who look like apes too. We should look like apes. We share an ancestor. We are not evolved apes. We share an ancestor in terms of animal kind. I'm not going to get into evolution with people though. That's just one of those things I don't see the purpose in arguing. If you understand that a poodle is a dog, and a Rottweiler is a dog, and a wolf is a dog, then you should understand that a chimpanzee is an ape, a gorilla is an ape, and a human being is an ape. You should be able to understand that. Beyond that point, I can't help you. Okay? So I don't want to get into it. But that's neither here nor there. He starts talking about CM Punk. I'm gonna cut to the CM Punk part. What year is this? This is 2013. He says, I watched the last hour of WWE Raw last night. It was the worst excuse for a show I have ever seen. My agent Scott is tight with the legendary world champion Bruno Sammartino. Scott has told me that WWE has been calling Bruno regularly, begging him to go into the Hall of Fame. Bruno has always been polite, but has always said no thank you. Tonight on Raw, for the last 45 minutes of the show, all they did was have CM Punk talk, and more talk. The killer line came when Vince had Punk putting over his 314 straight days as world champ, and then said, I quote, you had people like Bruno Sammartino only wrestle in Madison Square Garden, only wrestle once a month. End quote. This was by far the biggest put down of Bruno ever. Why would WWE have Punk say that about someone they have been begging to go into the Hall of Fame for untold years? When that teenager-looking CM Punk made that statement, he was also talking about me, Ivan Koloff, Stan Hansen, etc. Find the rerun and listen closely and answer me this, my Facebook friends. How can they justify putting down a real icon like this? and not get called out on it. Any news sites can quote me on my statement below. CM Punk, I have lost all respect for you for not saying no to the writers of the WWE for saying Bruno Sammartino only wrestle once a month in Madison Square Garden. You talk about one of the greatest icons ever in pro wrestling like he was a jobber? You should be ashamed of yourself for not having the self-dignity to say no to the writers on that line. That line you delivered indicates that I am a bigger loser as Bruno, as well as insults me as I wrestled in the same era as Bruno. This only confirms more that I want my name out of the WWE Hall of Fame. How many monthly sellouts have you yourself drawn at Madison Square Garden? Not a pay-per-view or the Raw TV show. Quit talking trash about Bruno. Is an insult to him and all the wrestlers of his era, including myself. Jesus. Bruno got worked. Bruno. Superstar got worked. He got worked by a promo on television. He got worked by a promo on TV. What the hell? Oh, oh, that was tasty. That one was bad. He was tight ass about this one. For the third time, probably, I'm going to explain this one more time for you guys. The CM Punk video was live at the same time this video was about to start. So I took that video down. It will be up tomorrow. This one, I'm just going to leave this one up to sort of do a remembrance for Superstar Billy Graham. But I didn't want to have two videos live at the same time. That's all. Yeah, he was tight in the ass about this. 2019. This is honestly the last time I remember anybody even mentioning Superstar Billy Graham, is when he told Adam Cole to take steroids. Oh, this is excellent. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. Oh my God. This is absolutely fantastic. I guess he took it down because it's not there anymore, but Facebook comicbook.com has the list. NXT champion Adam Cole needs to do steroids. Yes, fans, once more the superstar speaks the truth and is not afraid to tell the truth. I did indeed watch the last Friday Night SmackDown and was very impressed with the technical skill of the NXT champ against Daniel Bryan in the main event. However, once again, we see a champion of a WWE brand who is smaller than most women on Raw and SmackDown. Triple H, my dear brother, I am speaking to you now. What is with such small champions in WWE, save Brock Lesnar? That is why Lesnar beat Kofi in under 10 seconds to win a WWE title belt. I'm sorry, title belt. Titile. Titolo belt. Because it would have been a farce to carry Kofi any longer. The very young, nice man that he is. Damn, Adam Cole is so small. I'm not telling him to abuse roids. Just use them correctly to enhance your physique. Triple H will show you exactly how to do it, but just do it for the sake of your championship title. You should look like a champion. Do steroids. You look like a champion. I'm telling you, Superstar Billy Graham is a motherfucker, dog. This dude is great. This dude is fucking great, man. You tell a fucking kid do steroids, man. Why your body falling apart from doing roids? You're like, hey, why don't you go do some steroids, kid? I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. They'll do some steroids. Oh my God. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorite ones right there, bro. I'm a big fan of the of Superstar Billy Graham, dog. He's a piece of work. Let's before we end the Superstar Billy Graham portion of this video, gotta do another gotta find some more in terms of another one of his promos. I want to find another one of his promos that that show people how great he really was. Because, like I said, the true sadness isn't that his title run was so short. It's that he got himself into so much trouble and he got himself into so much heat with WWE and the audience and everything. Well, I shouldn't say the audience, but I said the executives, that he has basically banished himself to the negative zone until he died. You know, they kept giving him opportunities, and he had kept coming out saying weird stuff. It's just, it's just, it's just bad. It doesn't work. You know. Um, when Rusev fight or whatever, start putting out Superstar Billy Graham hoodies, I'm getting one. I'm telling you that. I know what's happening. I know what's going to happen. I'm not a fool. I know they're going to eventually get Superstar Billy.
And knew how to pass that energy that he had inside of his body. Nobody's beautiful, powerful, I eat those things. I have barbell plates. I'm used to it. I'm the reflection of perfection. A number one selection. The women's cat in the what you see, what you get, and what you don't see is better yet. I'm the man with the power. I'm the man with the power. Too sweet to be sour. Superstar Billy Graham. You passed to the pole, brother. And that's really why a lot of fans like me. They love to hate me, but a lot of fans were obviously very entertained by my persona.
That was a part of the WWF biography on Superstar Billy Graham. I floored. I can't believe so many people don't, not enough people appreciate this guy. We're gonna do some more promos.
Commemorate that memorable night you were the Superstar Champion of Champions. I'd like to present you with this small piece of what is left of the ukulele. Get your hands off a small piece. Look at the leftovers. Made of a remnants. Stardust. That was all that's left of the ukulele. Stardust. See Peter Maiva, and that's all that's going to be
Peter
left
Maiva. He didn't even say his name right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Superstar Billy Graham. Superstar, I think you've got a word to say, right? Like 1 second before I start wrestling here, I want the television world to look at the colors I have on. Just put the camera up and down my body. These colors are in remembrance of fall. Autumn is here, and I am wearing the colors of autumn on my body. There's more colors on my body than the rainbow in the sky, Daddy. I am a reflection of perfection. The number one selection. You got it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh God. Could you imagine if there was a podcast for him to have in like, I don't know, 98 or something like that? Oh, it would have been wicked. It would have been crazy. This guy is excellent, dog. He actually admitted to using steroids on TV. I want to play this because I saw this one floating around Twitter and I forgot about it. So I think this was going to be the last one before we move on to something else. But this is when he started talking about doing Diana Ball in the promo. This is great.
He has confidence in himself. He should. A great athlete in his own right. The python like superstar Billy Graham. And we didn't see the strength. We saw a little display of strength in the future in the previous contest, but now the run coming up here in the future, will we see that awesome power once again? What type of style will superstar Billy Graham resort to? Number one, I must take 7 Diana balls a day, 5 Delatest raw sides a week. I will be so strong and so powerful. I'm going to break his back with a superstar barrels. Lots of barrels on him right with it. Till the man cries, I give up, superstar. I shouldn't be here to begin with. It was a mistake. The first match was a mistake. Your foot was on the rope. I shouldn't have to go. The man will cry like a baby. And you, personally, will hold the microphone for Bob back in the cry and fight with him. Now you may stick.
My man went on TV and said he gonna do a bunch of Diana Ball and he'll start doing shots. Like, yo, that's not cool. Like you can't go on TV and just admit that you're gonna do steroids to beat Bob Backlund. You can't do that. That ain't right. You can't do that. And Vince just stood there because he wasn't in. He didn't have any authority yet. His daddy was still running the place, and he just kind of watched it happen. Just kind of watched the magic occur. Oh, buddy. Um, so that was fun. Superstar Billy Graham was one of the most fun guys in wrestling history, man. More people should talk about him. More people should appreciate him. So that's why I decided instead of just doing a 10 bell salute, that we would talk about him because there's so many silly stories about him that you gotta give him his time. You know, you gotta give him like an hour of your day. I highly suggest everybody watch his matches with Dusty. If you don't watch nothing else he's done, watch his matches with Dusty, and then watch a bunch of promos on YouTube. You will be a fan after that. You'll be a big fan after that. All right. In terms of what was next for, I don't think I've ever mentioned my thoughts on TKO Group and how that's a terrible fucking name. They're gonna name WWE and UFC TKO Group. That's a stupid damn name. Whose idea was that? If that's the kind of ideas that that Endeavor is going to bring to the table, we all in trouble. I can promise you that. Have I seen Billy Graham responding to Chris Jericho's autobiography? I have not. Let's look that up real quick because I don't know too much about that. Let's see, Superstar Billy Graham, Chris Jericho. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, this is from 2013. Superstar Billy Graham responds to Chris Jericho. Um, okay, so this is about CM Punk. Yada yada yada. Oh, Superstar told him. Oh, Chris Jericho told him to shut up and stop being a mark. And then Superstar responded, Mr. Jericho, sir, I won't say dear Chris because I know you hate me with the uttermost hatred. Addressing your quote about me and stop being such a mark. The truth is, I believe everyone is a mark for someone or something at some point in their life. For instance, I am a total mark for Bob Dylan. The man has written over 600 songs, and I saw him in person here in Phoenix last year. He had never sounded better at the age of 70. Fans are marks for the upcoming Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA championship playoffs, and NASCAR, to just name a few things. I am in pro wrestling. I am a mark for Triple H and proud to admit it for numerous reasons. He had a great hard-earned physique. He had enormous charisma and an in-ring presence that was unmatched. I remember sitting on the front row at the pay-per-view here in Phoenix, and his opponent gave him a slingshot into the post. I had my eyes fixed on him because I was curious about how he was going to do the blade job. As soon as his head hit the post, he started bleeding. I did not see him cut himself. He was right in front of me, just a few feet away. Back in the locker room, we were sitting next to each other. I said, brother, how did you cut your head as you started bleeding? He said, Superstar, cut my head right before I hit the post. I marked out at that very moment. What a pro that man was and still could be if he wanted to be. In closing, I hope that answers your statement to regard about me being such a mark and your quote about me shutting the hell up. I won't even address that because what I do best is cut promos. Wow. It's not even like he torched Jericho or nothing like that. It's that he took what Jericho said and made it something completely different. And then at the end said, like, no, I'm not going to shut up. I cut promos very well, so this is my thing. Holy shit. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Here's the audio from the Hannibal interview. I just clicked it. You can get no free commercials. Uh, Right, that was amazing. You cut yourself before the bump? That's crazy, bro.
Now, Jericho, you may have the face of a choir boy, but you've got the heart of a devil.
Oh God.
Your heart is dark and your heart is evil.
Oh my God.
And one day you'll be in hell burning, and somebody will walk across and see your skull on the floor of hell because
What the hell? What on earth? What on earth? What is this? There's 6 minutes of this shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. He just said Chris Jericho going to hell. I can't. I gotta hear this.
because that's exactly where you belong, Chris Jericho.
Oh my goodness.
Bob Dylan, I'm a music fan. You're a musician. I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan. He's got a song called Idiot Win. Few of the lyrics fit you perfect. Every time you move your teeth, you sound like an idiot.
Every time you move
I
your
wouldn't
teeth.
even touch the books that you read, and I would not touch.
Oh man said I wouldn't even touch the books you read. Holy shit. What is with Bob Dylan? This shit is great.
Touch a book that you have read, Chris Jericho. I despise you that much.
Oh my God.
Every time I crawl past your door, I wish I was somebody else instead. You're an idiot. It's a wonder that you even still know how to breathe.
Ooh.
You've covered up the truth with lies. One of these.
Bro, he got this shit written down, bro. He got this shit committed to paper. He is reading off a sheet of paper. He got this. He really does not like Chris Jericho. He wrote it down, okay? You know you don't like a motherfucker when you write the disc down and then do the video and upload it. You don't like that guy. Oh my goodness. Oh no, I pushed a button and screwed it up.
I despise you that much. Every time I crawl past your door, I wish I was somebody else instead. You're an idiot. It's a wonder that you even still know how to breathe. You've covered up the truth with lies. One of these days, you'll be found in a ditch, flies buzzing around your eyes. Jericho, I hope that you die.
Wow.
And your death comes soon.
Wow.
I'll follow your casket on a pale afternoon. I'll stand over your grave and watch you as your Lord to your deathbed. And I'll stand over your grave to make sure that you're dead. And then once I'm done with that, I'll spit on your grave and you will be burning in hell. And I suggest what happens to you, because you're such a liar, Jericho, that the Arabs and the Muslims in no man's land in Afghanistan, Waziristan, and all the tribal
Waziristan? What is that?
If you're caught lying, what they do to you is they take a pair of pliers.
What?
And they pull your tongue out.
Oh no!
And they cut your tongue off with a butcher knife.
Oh my God! What's this? What is this? What is this? Why is he doing this? Now he's talking about torturing this man and cutting his tongue out of his mouth. Jesus Christ! This shit got dark. This shit is dark. This shit got dark.
And then they bleed, of course, you bleed to death on your own blood. And so I would be more than happy, Jericho, to take a pair of pliers and cut your tongue in half and watch you bleed to death on your own blood because you are despicable, you're a liar, you're a fraud, you're calling me a has-been, you say I have nothing important to say about this issue, and I get a personal phone call from Linda McMahon. So I submit to the fine wrestling fans around the world, who's right? Superstar Billy Graham or Chris Jericho, the liar of liars? And I want to
come on.
hold up a photograph. I don't know about the reflection of
He got
a beautiful photograph of Eddie Guerrero in my.
He got a picture of himself and Eddie Guerrero. I don't know what's going on. Like, where is this going? I feel like I got to get to the bottom of this. What prompted this? I'm looking in the comment section, and it says that Jericho made a comment about him in Jericho's book. Well, Jericho has multiple books, so which book? You know? And matter of fact, let's look it up. 'Cause I don't know what he's going here with this Eddie Guerrero thing. But let's give it like 30 more seconds before we give up on it. But damn, he says every time you move your teeth, you're lying.
By myself, backstage with my son-in-law and my grandson, and I just want you to know that I know a few things about steroids. Here I am with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's spotting me. I'm bench pressing 600 pounds. And so I know a few things about steroids and what I'm talking about. And here's a shot of Arnold and I working out together in 1972, posing together in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And here's Arnold's.
I don't know what we're going to do with this now. Now, is he going to read from Chris Jericho's book? I'm trying to figure out. Let's put Jericho's book in there. I feel like I can't close this chapter until I realize what he said about the book. Okay, so this is from Reddit. This is probably going to have an answer to my question. What is the real beef between Chris Jericho and Billy Graham? I didn't know about this. Let's see. What is the nobody just will just tell me what the issue is. Apparently he's got the book and he's going to read from the book. I don't know. I can't see what's going on. Okay. Nope, that's not it.
At the end of January 2010, I was at an event in Los Angeles, autograph signing event. Wait,
what happened? I keep pushing buttons.
At the end of January 2010, I was at an event in Los Angeles, autograph signing event. Two young guys from Holland made a decision to come and see me because of my failing liver, of my but continually hepatitis C, destroying my new transplanted liver. And I've become very good friends with these young guys. They're great friends. One of them sent me an email what my thoughts were, and about Jericho's remarks about me, and I want to read the actual email that I sent back to my friend in Denmark, and I said, I hope I didn't offend Jericho. This was about Jericho was concerned that he was not asked to be the director of the funeral of Eddie Guerrero's funeral. that he felt that he should have been asked to be the director of the funeral service because he was Eddie Guerrero's favorite friend and his best friend, and that he felt he was slighted. And so I was unaware of the animosity of Jericho, and so he asked me to respond to Jericho's opinion about me being selected instead of him. And this is what I wrote back. I think this is very important for the fans to hear.
Okay.
Bobby, I hope I didn't offend Jericho, but I was asked personally by Eddie's wife, Vicky, to conduct the service. I believe Vicky was aware that Eddie and I had a special spiritual connection. And it could have also been as simple as me living in the same city as Eddie, had just moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, so there's a lot of pictures of him and Eddie together. So they must have been closer friends than I thought.
Along with our spiritual relationship, Eddie had undergone a tremendous spiritual rebirth with his own personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I was able to go into their newly purchased home and sit with Vicky at their dining room table and discuss things face to face with her, and also physically go to the funeral home here in Phoenix and discuss things with the director of the funeral home. And Eddie had mentioned to me and Valerie, my wife, how excited he was to be moving to Phoenix. It will be living just a few miles apart. Plus, Vicky didn't have much time to think about who was going to do what, when, and where. But I do believe being close friends to Eddie on a spiritual level and being so close by, just miles apart, she would call and I could be and was in fact sitting with her at her dining room table. And Bobby, this is my friend in Denmark, the newly purchased home that they had just bought barely a few weeks before Eddie passed was still full of unpacked boxes of stuff that both extended family members were going through and helping Vicky unpack. Photographs were still on the floor. Leaning against.
Okay, that's got dark. Okay, so he was friends with Eddie Guerrero. Vicky asked him to be the director of the funeral service. That offended Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho decided to say something negative about Superstar Billy Graham in his book. Jericho being a petty bitch as usual, if that's true. That's unfortunate, man. But the way he ripped into Jericho, man, that shit was funny. That was pretty damn funny, man. It got dark when he starts talking about cutting his tongue out of his mouth. I'm like, wait a minute. But it got dark pretty fast there. But it was fun. Well, it was fun at first. All right. TKO group, stupid. There's gotta be something else that we could talk about. I guess I want to talk about this bullshit Mark Shapiro was talking about. I don't like talking about these Endeavor guys. They got all these crazy ideas about what they want to do with WWE instead of just. But this is actually very interesting, and this is something that I wanted to discuss because it actually plays into what I think was a problem with WWE for a long time. Yeah, this does explain why he was planning to get buried next to Eddie because they were best buds. I don't know, man. The thing is, Superstar was known for not telling the truth, so I'm still kind of waffling on believing that one, but it's more believable now than it was when I first heard about it. When I first heard about it, I thought it was an absolute joke. All right, so one of these Endeavor bureaucrats named Mark Shapiro, he's the president. One of, I don't know how many presidents they've got. But here's what they had to say about monetizing WWE sponsorships, etc. Now, this thing is actually very interesting. He says, we haven't finished the transaction. We're still running through the process. We're not making any decisions. We're not in control. So I'm not going to forecast what we may or may not do. I'll speak to you from a point of view of why we thought it was so attractive. Yes, all of those opportunities. You want to be authentic, seamless, organic, and maybe true to your audience. We're not going to put a brand on somebody's robe walk into the ring. Do UFC fighters wear Venom apparel and Project Rock shoes? Yes, they do. Could WWE benefit from an apparel deal as such, a shoe deal as such? Absolutely. We're not going to over commercialize it. We're not going to oversaturate it to the point that and cheapen it out and trick it out, and you turn off the fan base. You have to figure out what's right in the ring, in the octagon, what's right in the arena, the indoor and outdoor, what's right with the fighters and the participants, and you have to walk before you run. Now, this, of course, triggered the hell out of me on Twitter because I had not thought about this. Now, I don't know how many of you guys remember, but WWE bought Tap Out. They bought, like, I think half a Tap Out. They bought like 50-50 a Tap Out several years ago. I think it might have been 2013 or something like that. But they haven't done much with it since they bought it. It's just a thing that they have. But WWE is a very popular brand, and they have no major sports endorsements. No Reebok, no Adidas, no Nike, no Fila. And that really didn't hit me until they started talking about it right here. Like them talking about putting sponsorships in the ring and not wanting to trick it out and overdo it, over commercialize. That's what WWE is doing right now with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch thing outside the ring and the Mountain Dew match and all this kind of stuff. They're overdoing it. What he's talking about is doing an apparel deal. And I'm thinking to myself, why hasn't they done that sooner? Why don't they have exclusively Adidas boots or something like that that the wrestlers wear or whatever? I know that you can't wear those things walking around the planet Earth. It doesn't seem to make much sense because you can't really sell wrestling boots. People aren't going to buy them, you know? So how do you model them? It had to be t-shirts, right? It had to be like maybe you make an apparel deal and that company has access to your logos and then they can make quality t-shirts, but then you'd have to either who'd sell them? They have to sell through Fanatics, which is now does all of their merchandise, but they could theoretically license out logos and license it out to the creative team of like Adidas or Fila or Nike or something like that. And I think that's what, if I remember correctly, and somebody please correct me on this, that's what happened with Michael Jordan, that he contracted with Nike with his name, image, and likeness. Before Jordan became his own thing, it was a part of Nike. And he was able to do that. Why hasn't they done it with WWE yet? Like that's the one of the things that it comes across as so natural that it never really struck me that it's a big part of WWE's branding that they don't have, you know? And it's weird for a company that is that popular to not have a major sports deal, you know? Yeah, the Puma shoes were so long ago, I didn't even remember it. You know, I'm looking them up now. They reselling some of these joints for $700. The Puma WWE Clyde Money in the Bank sneakers are going for almost $700. This is from 2017, and it didn't last very long, apparently. But Puma? Why Puma? That's what I want to know. Like, I don't know, man. I'm looking at these shoes now. This seems weird to me, bro. That they would go with Puma. That's maybe the other shoe companies weren't interested. That's my only guess. Yeah, that's the same to be what it was. Is maybe the other shoe companies weren't sure how you could monetize. Here's another WWE Puma shoes. The Undertaker Puma shoes are $500. Woo! No wonder I didn't know about these joints. They got Ric Flair Puma shoes, Undertaker Puma. I didn't know it was this deep. Like I knew they had some kind of Puma deal, but oh, they got insoles too. Oh, that's kind of dope. The insoles are kind of dope. They got artistically drawn cartoon insoles like Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, Steve Austin, Undertaker. That's pretty dope. Um, but these shoes are expensive, bro. Oh well, not regular Pumas. Regular Pumas are not expensive, but the WWE shoes are those are only like $500. That's crazy. The money that okay on eBay they're going for $220. The ice cream shoes are 200. The Ultimate Warrior joints are 140. Yeah, this is a long time ago. And it really kind of begs the question of why they weren't doing this kind of stuff before. Here's the Puma Randy Savage shirt. I never even seen this shirt before. Uh, I'm looking at it and it looks okay, I guess. It's Randy Savage with a boombox, but it lacks detail. I think you probably could have did a better job with the art, but it wasn't terrible. But the question is Endeavor going to be able to get them this kind of a hookup? Because if Endeavor can get them a shoe deal or an apparel deal, where now a lot of wrestlers like making their own gear. You know, Bianca Belair makes her own gear, but a lot of people like using people to do their own gear. Maybe WWE can license out making a gear for like big shows like WrestleMania or SummerSlam or something like that. Um, Sneakers with pouches. Oh God. Ugh. Ugh. Did WWE have any kind of deal with lugs? I don't remember that. Let's take a look. I'm not really a big apparel guy. Like I buy things for function, not for fashion. So I don't know too much. Oh yeah, they had WWF lug boots. Okay, this was in the 2000 early 2000s. They had yeah they had a lugs uh they had a deal with them. It looked like they just did commercials for them. I don't think they actually put out like uh, a shoe with WWE. But I'm thinking of like the I know part of it is probably because the wrestlers can't have individual sponsorships, and maybe if you could have an individual wrestler with an individual sponsorship, you might be able to get some kind of Nike deal or something like that. But let's say a guy like I don't know Carmelo Hayes gets like a deal with Reebok or something like that, and he makes an X amount of dollars. That would incentivize you to push him, wouldn't it? Similar to Randy Savage with the Slim Jim deal, right? It would incentivize you to keep him around if he could have individual sponsorships. His sponsorship brings in a lot of money or brings in a lot of prestige and get lots of attention, or it reaches the right demographic. I'm just utilizing Reebok and Carmelo Hayes as a example. Um, I don't see why you wouldn't. It might be. Mm, I'm just saying, like it should be easy to do this with the WWE brand and being able to get into that market, especially the sneaker market. I'm surprised, definitely surprised they haven't tried to do it yet. Um, I don't remember the Ruse at all. I don't remember them. I didn't remember the lugs. Again, I don't remember clothing and stuff. Like I knew they bought Tap Out because I was like, I used to see Tap Out shit everywhere. And then I stopped seeing it, and then I found out WWE had bought it, and I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. But it turns out they really, I don't think they actually do much with Tap Out. They just kind of have it, you know, and they own 50% of it. At least that's what it looks like. I'm on the Wikipedia page. I hate using Wikipedia, but it's the quickest option here. It says yeah, It says in March 2015, the company was relaunched following its joint venture acquisition by pro wrestling company WWE and development firm Authentic Brands Group. WWE will hold a 50% stake in the brand and will so advertise it regularly across all of its platforms, hoping to give it 1 billion impressions a month and attempting to rival sports giant Under Armour. All employees and students of the WWE Performance Center will also wear the clothing. That's why they don't have an apparel deal then. That explains it perfectly. They own their own shit. That's why. I knew there was an answer to the question, like why don't they have their own apparel deal? It's like clearly they do. Tap Out, they own it, but it's different. Like this is different. You can own your own shit and still do other stuff too. Like I saw them that they're about to start remixing a lot of these entrance themes because people have been complaining about the entrance themes. So they're going to hire the guys who did Cody's themes. What are they named? Downstate, I think it's called. They're going to hire them to remix some of the themes. At least that's what I heard. I think Kevin Owens is like number one on the list that they're going to remix his theme. They've been looking to really do better with the themes for a while. But you can own stuff like your own production company, and you can still outsource certain things for special occasions or something like that. But it makes perfect sense why they don't have an apparel deal, but they need to. They still need one. Like they could have made a grip off of John Cena having like an official shoe, you know, because he wrestled in gym shoes. Like he could really do oh shit. He could really have an official shoe. That could have been sweet. You know? They had Roman Reigns wrestling in gym shoes for a little while, then they told him to stop doing it because he was wrestling in Nikes. I guess he was giving them free promotion, which he was, and that was smart on their part to tell him not to do it. I saw a lot of people complaining about that. I'm like, I get it though. You know, he's wearing Nikes on TV. You know, Nike doesn't pay them. Why the hell are they giving Nike free publicity? But it makes sense what I'm looking at here. You still need like a big league. That's one of those things, and we talked about it on the channel quite a bit when I used to go through these the conference calls. They used to talk about the sponsorships and how they're not doing as well as other companies. This was one of the things that kept jumping out is there's not enough endorsements, not enough sponsorships. And look at what they had to do to get the sponsorship they did have. They had to put a fucking cinnamon toast crunch outside the ring. They had to really basically build a match around a movie. The zombie match had to be built around them. That was a mess. Is it possible for them to get a lengthy deal of significant income without interfering too much into the product? I would hope so. I would hope so. WG Phil says WWE wants the endorsement rather than getting the endorsement. Savage took the Slim Jim deal to WCW. Not entirely true. If you go back and you watch old WWF, when Savage left, there were still people doing Slim Jim commercials. Diesel did them. Bam Bam Bigelow did them. The problem was it wasn't the same. So when Savage popped up in WCW, Slim Jim went with him. And they just took off and went with Savage. But they did have other people do the Slim Jim commercials for a short time after Savage left. It just wasn't the same. Bam Bam Bigelow Slim Jim commercials was not. They weren't bad, but they were not Randy Savage. Let's play some of the audio from a Bam Bam Bigelow Slim Jim commercial.
I'm a little hot-headed. Do you think it's the Flames? People think I'm excitable. Do you think it's the Slim Jim? You need a little excitement? Snap into a Slim Jim.
This was This was, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Diesel also did a Slim Jim commercial. He was a champion at the time too. His Slim Jim commercial was honestly probably the worst.
Emotional consideration paid for by the following. Big Daddy Cool needs a big lift. I go for the big beef and spice. Need a little excitement. Snap into a Slim Jam.
That was he. Oh my God, Nash. The overreacting. Nash is terrible. Look at this. Look at this shit.
Our athletes still care about their fans. I have to hold one more time, so I'm gonna snap. Did you see snap? Snap into a Slim Jim! You know excitement? Snap into a Slim Jim!
You could tell that Nash was not taking this shit seriously at all. Everything about this is, it just screams Nash is fucking off. You know, it feels like WCW. Like looking at Nash's Slim Jim commercials, it feels like you watching him on Nitro. How he just so aloof, like he doesn't give a fuck. He's just saying whatever they told him to say, and it is what it is. It's so cartoony. Like there's a little bit of it, a little bit of sincerity in the Bam Bam Bigelow Slim Jim commercials. A little bit of sincerity. Nash, nah, he's mocking this shit. Okay, you can look at him and tell he's mocking this. Who else did Slim Jim commercials that I could think of after Savage left? Ultimate Warrior. I forgot about this. I didn't see this though.
Paid announcement. So, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? You boys a bit bored? Snap into it! Snap into a Slim Jim! Take to the spice! Make me just a taste! Hey, nice! Antique! Snap into it! Need a little excitement? Snap into a Slim Jim!
Warrior's 100% cartoon, literally all the fucking time. Even his commercials are cartoon. But it came across like an episode of fucking Dragon Ball. He comes in, slap his horse, slam down, and the table start breaking and shit falling off the walls. I'm like, God damn. They were selling the shit out of Slim Jims though. But yeah, Savage was the GOAT when the Slim Jims. Man, this shit was great. The problem was they tried to have everybody do it like Savage was doing it. It's not the same. You know, you can't just say anybody can say snap into a Slim Jim, and it's not the same.
Download the Domino's app today and become a...
Not everybody can do it like Savage was doing it. Savage is the GOAT when it comes to Slim Jims.
Pick up the temple. Domino's Slim Jim. Turn to the spice. That beefy juicy taste.
Yes, Mr. Savage.
How about the funky chicken?
Is that a horse?
Oh, yeah. Slim Jim.
Oh yeah, his voice was just perfect for these commercials. He's excellent. You'd think Warrior would be good at it, but he's just so cartoony. It's so over the top. It's too over the top. And Nash is way too over the top, and he's actually not taking the commercial seriously at all. And Bam Bam is sincere, but he just wasn't. He didn't have it. Just wasn't. Just never got over the hump. All right, it's 10 o'clock. All right. Thank you, everybody who stopped through. Rest in peace to the great superstar Billy Graham. Thanks, everybody, for stopping through. The CM Punk video will be up tomorrow. Since everybody's going to ask me about it, I'm going to change the time from being up at 2 o'clock to being up at 10. Because I know a lot of people saw it anyway. So I'm going to start it earlier. Just, I don't know why I picked 10, like either 10 or 2. It's just, I don't know. But now that I have started that, I'm just going to keep doing it. I just imagine a lot of people who are listening to the videos are at work or something like that. And plus everybody else do videos at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So it is what it is. But I'll post the video in the morning instead of in the afternoon, if I remember. But thanks to everybody for stopping through. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.